Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. I bumped into one of my friends. I have friends ranging from 3 all the way to 100 years old, in Eretz Yisrael, you could actually talk to like a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and you could actually have an intelligent conversation with them. In America, it's harder to find someone like that, So, there's the oldest man in Ger, he's like 90 something, So I used to go to the Daf Yomi with him by a big tzaddik. I think he's one of the hidden tzaddikim, so we're going to leave him hidden. So, imagine learning the Daf Yomi with the whole Shas comes into the Daf Yomi. It's a different level. So, I met up with one of my friends. He's probably 60 something, and I met him probably over a year ago. Very nice person, he's the perfect, he has the perfect nature for a Rebbe, for a teacher, for, just to deal with kids and young adults. He's just, he is born for that, and it seemed to me that he was a Rebbe. I didn't verify that, but, from what I've seen, that's what it looks like. But now that I met him and he said that he retired, so I'm like, what type of Rebbe retires? There's no retirement, so, but maybe there is. I don't know, maybe, maybe Social Security is the retirement, whatever. But it seems to me that he's a Rebbe, even though I have this aspect that seems to tell me that maybe he did something else. But there's certain things that when you see it, focuses on this, and then you have another aspect which seems to say opposite. So you have to remove the things that look like they're on the side and focus on the main thing that you see, and that's the answer. How could he have said that he retired, right? That's, that you have to ask him, that you have to figure out. But to push away the main picture because of a side detail, that wouldn't, when you're working with your perfect mind, until you could get more information, you have to go with that, the most probable, even though there might be some serious questions that you may have. Okay. The reason why we speak this out is because people today, we're missing so much of how to use our mind in a proper way. So, try to take that time to explain it when we can. So I've known this person probably for over a year, and I remember when I first met him, and until, maybe 2-3 months ago, something like that, maybe 4 months ago, he was like filled with, it looked like he was doing in life. You understand? Like he was a Rebbe. He's, again, that's what I surmise. And he was, he was accomplishing, he was doing in the world. It wasn't just him, he was doing for others in this world, on a constant basis. And that, what brings, whether you're a Rebbe, whether you're helping someone with finance, whether you're a doctor, whether you're whatever it is, that's like something that is one of the parts of balance that makes a person feel alive and feel good with his life and feel fulfilled. And feeling fulfilled in life this, doing things, good things, and therefore you feel fulfilled. They're not talking about some, you know, negative types of fulfillment. We're talking about positive acts that cause fulfillment. This is what creates happiness in life. You understand? So that's what I saw on him, and then I just, I've seen him for the last few months, and he's still a wonderful person. He's such a loving, good person, and he's amazing. He's amazing. But I just feel, my senses, what I sense is that his chiyas went down. And again, I go to the main. There's always, maybe it was this, but you have to go to the main. You have to go with what seems to be the majority. You can't go with the minority. So it seems that his chiyas went down, and basically there's like 4 basic reasons why a person's chiyas could go down. A person's health goes down, and that could, leave them drained. But he looks healthy to me, so that doesn't seem to be it. Now there are some people, my bubby, unfortunately, she got Yana cancer, and even though she has cancer, and she's even after the treatments, even during the treatments, but you really couldn't tell that she had cancer. You understand? She looked like she was a healthy, old person. So of course, it could be, but that's unlikely. You have to always go for the more likely scenario. So one could think, okay, so it's not health. So there's 4 things. So it's not health. One could say divorce. Divorce could cause that, but he's such a nice person. It doesn't seem like anybody's divorcing him. Today anything is possible, but again, the likeliness. So it doesn't seem that he's going through a divorce. All right? It doesn't seem that. So one could say maybe a kid's going off the derech. One of his children are leaving Judaism. He's such a nice person. I doubt one of his children are going off the derech. Now, could it? In today's world, again, anything's possible. You understand? But what the likeliness? It's not in. These are things that I see that they're in the minority group, and I'm trying to figure out what's something that's there's 2 groups here. There's things that are minority chance and things that are majority chance. So this type of thing goes into the minority type of chance, low likeliness of happening to this person. Then there's the majority. Now, if you have more than one majority, then you have to go to the most likely of that. But right now, what we mentioned, it's all in the minority chance. So again, we said health, divorce, child leaving Judaism. Doesn't seem like that's happening. What's the 4th thing? Parnasa, right? Parnasa. A person's livelihood. So when I saw him, it automatically hit me that it seems it's the livelihood. So logically, it seems that it's that, and also my sense is telling me that. So this is very powerful. You understand? So now the thing is, although he's my friend, but he's much older than me. You understand? So if it's someone around my age, I could just go over to them and say, "Oh, I see you here. How's work going?" Are you looking for work? This, that, I could, but he's much older than me. It's not so respectful for me to say that. It'll embarrass him. You understand? So how do I bring it out? So without trying to limit, still trying to help him to the maximum, but at the same time limiting to the most that I can of me hurting his feelings. You understand? Embarrassing him. So I said hello to him, and I said, if he opens up conversation with me, then I'll, with God's help, I'm going to try to figure out how to slip it in a side way. And so he actually started, I said hello to him, and then he said hello back, and then he told me a little vart. He said that, he says, you know how Hashem treats you? The way you treat others. You treat others good, you treat Hashem good, Hashem is going to treat you good. You understand? That was his nikuda that he was bringing out. He's such a warm, fuzzy guy, such a special person. And so this is what he said. And Hashem somehow gave me the wisdom how to slip it in, and sometimes the people that could affect, could be the most effective, the biggest cause of helping people to get good in their life is lots of times people that hide their intelligence, they hide their chachma, they hide their smartness, and people just look at them as, as regular or maybe a bit lower, and since people don't think that they're smart, and and you help them in this subtle way, and they don't even realize it, So sometimes those types of people are the best people, a person who's screaming, I'm smart and this and that, he can't really affect too much, someone whose secret got leaked and now everybody knows he's a genius, it's harder for him to help people help themselves. You understand? It's much harder because people are on the watch out. He's smart. You could, but if they think you're not too smart, so then you could, cause a lot of good. So, I'm having this conversation and I'm thinking, I'm waiting for that moment where it clicks that I could bring in, making money in a side way. And that moment came, and I said, and I brought in, there's this paper that has, people looking for jobs, people that are trying to find workers, different events that are happening, and for whatever X amount of dollars you could put an ad there, and so one of them is people looking for for workers. In this case, they're looking for someone to deal with kids that unfortunately we have kids that are Down syndrome or autistic, and they're looking for someone to someone to help, they're looking for people to work with them. And I'm thinking, like, this guy is perfect. He's made for the job. He's made to deal with kids, with young people. That's what he's made for. So I bring in Agav, on the side that about money, and he tells me that he's retired. He retired. So it must have been that a few years ago he retired. That's why he retired, and now he's a few months doing nothing. I mean, he's going to shul, he's a good husband, he's a good father, grandfather, but beforehand he was helping kids. He was a Rebbe, you understand? And now it's all gone. So that's why his level of chiyus went down. So now I'm telling him, about a Rebbe job, I don't even remember exactly what I said, it's all from the Eibishter, you just try to sync with Hashem, with God. So that morning I picked up that paper which had this job it seems that you could choose. You want to work in the morning, in the afternoon, certain hours. So I said, oh, maybe this job is good because it's helping, kids that, that are Down syndrome, autistic, and it seems that it could be flexible on the times. So he's like, oh, interesting. And I saw how his mood went up. And, and that, that was that, and I was able to help him. Then I also said another thing to him. After this, I also said another thing because I'll tell you in a moment what I said, but I first want to give the reason why I said it. I'm very sensitive to people blaming God for their misfortunes, for the bad things that are happening to them. You understand? Or the lack of good things happening to them. It seems to be that people use God as the scapegoat, blame God, when in reality, usually, we have to blame ourselves. The rabbis and rebbes and rebbitzins and rosh hashivas and chachams, they have to blame themselves. God's not to blame. You understand? So I get very, when people say something like that's putting God down, I don't really let that fly by me, and I'll say that it's not God. It's the leaders, it's us, you understand? So this word that he told me, you understand? The idea of it is that the bad things that are happening is because of God, but if you act better, then it won't, which is true, but I don't think today that most of the bad things that happen to us, that God wanted that to happen. It's us causing that to ourselves. It's the leaders that we have that are causing that to us. You understand? I don't think it's God that's causing that. So I'm like a big fan of sticking up for God. God doesn't need me to stick up for him, but I love Hashem, and I'm not going to allow people to talk in a way, even though they absolutely meant well and they're so special. But if they say something that I feel is, maybe I'm oversensitive, but that's what I felt, that it's putting down God, I'm going to say something. So I said, I hear this point that you're saying. I said, but I don't think it's God. I said, if anything today, we see today the Riboy Chesed of Hashem, the tremendous kindness of God. We don't have pogroms. There's not wars all the time and people being killed, there are third world countries, you understand, but there is first world countries, and that's where we are. You understand? So I said, I don't see that happening. I see Hashem is giving such kindness, Hashem's kindness is at such a high, you understand? So to start saying, in a side way, the bad things that are happening, is because of God, and if you do this, then it's going to go away. It's true, of course, you always have to improve. But I don't believe that the bad things that are happening is God, you understand? I believe it's man's free will that is causing this. So I told him that I don't believe this is. He says to start telling people that God is the cause, and if you do this, it's going to go away, which is in essence what he's saying. Of course, he's bringing it out in such a nice way that it hardly doesn't seem like that you understand. He's bringing it out in such a kind way, but the essence of what he's saying is that. And I just see the Riboy Tov of Hashem, the Riboy Chesed of Hashem, the Riboy goodness and kindness of God, and I see God doing good even though we mess up, you understand? Even though we make, every day we're making mistakes. I see God still giving us so much good. And therefore, the big issues that we're facing, I don't think is God. I think it's something else. I think it's man's free will. And I went on to explain to him what that is. Who is that? So I said, first of all, there's things that we cause to ourselves. You had free will. You caused this negative thing to happen to you. If someone starts smoking stuff, you understand, or starts injecting things, it's not God that's doing that to him. He is the one that's killing himself, you understand? There's so many things that happen in our lives. Divorces, children going off the derech, parnasa problems, so many things, getting married problem, so many things that either we caused it to ourselves or we're part of that problem. We're these people cause it 90%, but we cause it 10%. You understand? And that's what we need to focus on. And I also brought out that there's the big issues in Klal Yisrael of people not getting married, divorces. It just keeps getting worse. It's harder and harder to get married, and it's harder and harder to stay married. You understand? Parnasa is so difficult. And debt, kids going off the derech, God forbid, chas v'shalom. It's so difficult. These are the big issues that are plaguing. Then, of course, there's people with bad health. These are the issues that are plaguing Judaism. And when it comes to health, to a certain extent you weren't trained to eat healthy, but you can't just blame it. You're an adult, that's something you could fix, you understand? So and at the end of the day, even if it's something that you have very little control over, let's say they're making all the girls think that that they can't marry you because of this, and that, We have many shurim on that, but you understand, but that's what they're doing. And they make the boys think they can't marry this girl because she doesn't have money. You understand? Even though she's pretty and kind and just so loving and would make a perfect wife. She's beautiful, everything. But she doesn't have money. And you need someone who's going to support you for your whole life. You need support. You understand that boys get out of that much quicker than girls get out of their brainwash. You understand? But there is that brainwash. You understand? So but at the end of the day, you can't really control them, the leaders that are causing this. The Rosh Hashivas, the rabbis, the rebbes, the chachams, the rebbitzins, you can't control that. So what you need to do is say, what percentage am I causing that? Am I encouraging other people to do this shita, this ideology, which is wrong? Then I have to stop that. Am I looking at girls based on this aspect, which is I shouldn't be? Then I remove that. You understand? You have to do what you can do. And then you see the siyata d'shmaya from Hashem open up. You understand? He's gonna take care of you, but you got to do what you could do. Now, going back to, well, what about the fact that the leaders are the cause? They're bringing an ideology of a makubal, of a Kabbalist from like 1,000 years ago. The Rashbi, Rabbi Akiva, huge Kabbalists from like 1,000 years ago. You understand? And that's, and they're saying you have to be them, me, you. You understand? The girl has to want someone who's that. You understand? Which this is a bit weird because they don't teach. All the girl has to do is want that, and that's what makes her that. That seems pretty superficial. But the boys, at least, you're saying they can't do anything in life. They just have to learn and learn and learn non-stop. You understand? They're not even encouraging you to become a paisik. Nothing. Just learn. 24/7. That's what they're saying. Insanity. So they're taking a level of a Kabbalah. I mean, I don't even think this is what the Rashbi was, and this was Rabbi Akiva was. But in their minds, this is the Rashbi. This is Rabbi Akiva. So I'm saying that they're taking an ideology. In their mind, this is what they held. And these people are Kabbalists from like 1,000 years ago. And then you're coming to someone today and saying you need to be doing that. And you're like, we're not 1% of the Rashbi. We're not 1% of Rabbi Akiva. You understand? This level that they're talking about is light years above the letter of the law. You understand? It's not just a higher, a bit higher, you understand? This is light years above the letter of the law. And they're coming to you and saying that's what you're supposed to be. And you're like, since it's taught to people from such a young age, they just believe it. You understand? It's utter nonsense. For the Rashbi, for Rabbi Akiva Eger, for Rabbi Akiva, yes, that could be For them, that is balance on their tremendous high level, which the truth is they think that what they're saying is the level of the Rashbi, is the level of Rabbi Akiva, but really we have no idea what their level is. It's so high, it's so exalted that we have no idea what it is. We just know that there's so much greater. You understand? And that's what they're telling people, that you need to be. And if you're not, there's something wrong with you. For the boy, there's something wrong with you. Whatever. If you have to be a nebuch, so you'll then you won't do it. If you're not up to it, there's nothing to be up to. This is a level of Kabbalists from like 1,000 years ago. What does that mean? Like I'm someone lower because I'm not faking that I'm on their level. I'm higher because I know that they're higher, and I'm nothing close to them, and I keep the Torah. I'm Sherman Torah mitzvahs, and I'm balanced. I take care of my wife. I take care of my husband. I take care of my kids. I do good for others. I'm a kind person. I don't speak gossip. What do you mean that, okay, if you can't learn all day, then what does that mean? It has nothing to do with that. There's something called balance in life. That's the way Hashem created you. I'm not a Rashbi. I'm not a Rabbi Akiva Eiger. And anybody that thinks that they are, they're lying to themselves. Oh, I found one person that is. Really, he's nothing like the Rashbi, nothing Rabbi Akiva, like Rabbi Akiva, but he is a very, his level is, how many people can even, this is a very high level. To take that one person who actually got 1% of Rabbi Akiva's level, 1% of the Rashbi's level, and to now take him and hurt all of Klal Yisrael, the whole Judaism, because of him, is a terrible sin. Instead, respect and say, wow, he got to 1% of their level. I admire that, but I'm not going to be a fool and pretend that I'm even 1% of their level. You understand? I'm not going to be that fool. Rather, I'm going to say Hashem gave the 613 commandments. We have 7 Derabanans. We have certain Minhagim, depending on if you're Ashkenaz, Sfard, or Hasidish. You understand? And I'm going to make sure and work hard to keep the Torah, to be a person full of love and kindness, to be a good husband, to be a good wife, to be a good child, to be a good parent, to be a good leader. When you think you're the Rashbi or Rabbi Akiva, it's hard to be a good leader. It's hard to be a good father, to be a good mother, to be a good spouse, because to you, you're already up there. There's nothing to work on. But it's all a lie. You're not up there. In order to get there, you have to first start from the basics. You first have to learn balance and work your way up and way up. And as you get higher and higher, your balance goes to a new type of level. You understand? But you got to go through the steps. And we would be lucky if we would reach 1% of the Rashbi. Just 1%. The Rashbi's percent of a percent, you understand? That's something that's attainable for people. A percent of a percent. That's something that we could strive our whole lives to reach. Keeping the mitzvahs, being a good person, being a person full of love and compassion, full of goodness. The Rashbi's levels, seeing the whole world, being able to go through all the ilamus, and looking at a person and seeing everything, not forgetting anything that you learn, knowing Kabbalah to the deepest depths. Endless. What are you faking that you would be lucky if you could reach our whole lives? We strive to reach 1% of 1% of the Rashbi, of Rabbi Akiva. You understand? Isn't that the way we're supposed to be machshav Talmidei Chachamim? Realize how their greatness, and we're working just to be a percent of them. Then imagining that we're not too far off from them. That we're such nonsense. This ideology is the cause. Again, we didn't spell it out, in the exact words, but we talked about it, and anybody that's living today understands what I'm talking about. And the answer is balance, 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 balance. That's what we should be doing. Balanced. Being a balanced person. Understanding that life has 100 factors. How I treat my wife. How I treat my parents. How I treat my kids. How I treat my friends, my neighbors, my colleagues. How I treat Hashem. How I keep the commandments. How I learn, how I daven, how I pray. How I make parnasa, sustenance. So many things that you have to learn. How to be natural at everything. That everything just sinks together and creates an awesome life for you and your family, and you're a model for the world. People see you, they get healed, they see truth, they see you, they're like, I want that. I'm going to become Jewish. I left Judaism. I just know I'm a Jew, but I've been living like someone who's not a Jew, and I see this from Jew, how he's balanced, and I want to be that. That's what we're supposed to be, not pretending and imagining that we're in any way close to the levels of Kabbalists from like 1,000 years ago. I know someone's going to say, it's not 1,000 years, right? We'll look it up. We'll see exactly to the date how many years ago, right? Like if you say it's not 1,000, like as if it's something that happened like 10 years ago, right? Talk about something that happened hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right? So this is what we need to realize. And because we allow these people who know how to learn a Daf Gemara, because they know how to learn a Daf Gemara, therefore they believe that they should be in charge, and we allow them to be in charge. This percentage that's our fault, that we can work on, that we can fix. We could start saying we have to look for the Tzaddik Emes. The Tzaddik Emes is like Moshe Rabbeinu, who understood each individual and certainly didn't say that that this individual has to be like Abraham. You understand? He has to be like Adam Harishon Koydem Achet. You know, he didn't say that. He looked at each individual according to the level of that generation. And of course, there are the commandments that is universal, no matter which generation you're living in. But thank God, Judaism, we always rise above the commandments, meaning we do the commandments always a bit more stringent. We make extra fences to keep us from sin. You know, the Rashbi probably had thousands of fences to keep him away for each and every sin. You understand? We maybe have one or two. You understand? And Moshe Rabbeinu saw the level of each person, and how much higher he could go from the beginning point. Now there are some people that they're born and and they're 18, they're 25, and now they're finding out that if they're a Jew, then there's commandments that they have to keep. You understand? You can't speak gossip against another Jew. You understand? Now they're learning these things, and of course they can't learn everything overnight, and it takes time to change. But when you're speaking to someone who's born from and is keeping the commandments, you right, each person by their level, and Moshe Rabbeinu knew how to help the person maximize his potential according to who he is. The commandments everybody could keep. The levels above that, that's not for everybody. Certainly, you don't start off at tremendously high levels. You understand? You start off working to get the basics, just keeping the commandments, being a good person, being a good husband, being a good wife, being a good father and mother. You start off at the basics, and then you build from there. Certainly, you don't imagine yourself to be not too far from the Rashbi, like you could do what he did. Money will just come, everything will just come. I'm always chesed, sometimes you have people that it happens to. I'm sure there are people that, have managed to reach 1% of the Rashbi, and to them miracles happen, but it's probably like a handful of people. You understand? It's not something that the majority or even a minority could reach. It's like a handful of people, that's it. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those people that we see miracles happening, it's the Yetzer Hara, it's the Satan that's doing that. Because he wants to, every time we start becoming sensible and saying we need to be balanced, and you understand, he says, okay, I better make a miracle for this person who's learning, because to keep them in the lie. If I was learning and a miracle happened and I got, and I got money, I don't know, I would think, you know what, I think I should give it all to charity, because there's a good chance that the Satan gave it to me because he wants to make people think that they could just learn full time and not take on any responsibilities of life, mainly bringing sustenance to the house. So what could we do that we have leaders that are saying this? We have to start searching for the tzaddik emes, like Moshe Rabbeinu. You understand? That he understood the person. He understood this person can do this person can do that. And he maximized their potential, not comparing them to the Rashbi, comparing them to Adam Rishon Kaidem Achet. No. Looking at you and saying, who are you? Who am I? And how could this person be a good person and keep the commandments of God? That's what he looked at. You know, when the Rashbi came out, him and his son Rabbi Elazar, they were, wherever they looked, they were burning up the place. People were burning, fields were burning. They said, how could a person be Isaac and Chaye Shah and not be completely Isaac and Chaye Olam Haba? How could it be that a person is involved in this world and his complete focus is not just the next world? How could it be that he's doing any type of mundane thing in this world and not just learning all the time and doing kindness? How could it be? And they couldn't understand it. And everywhere they looked, things were burning up. And Hashem said, go back to the cave. When I said this to the guy, Hashem says, go back to the cave. He started to laugh. Go back to the cave. Go back to the cave. There's a lot of Rabbanim, a lot of Rebbitzins today, a lot of Rosh Hashivas, Chachams, Rebbes that we have to say to them, go back to the cave. You got to relearn how to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what Hashem is telling Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and Rabbi Eliezer. You got to learn how to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. You don't compare that person to you. You look at that person for him and you say, how could I help him with who he is to become a good person, a kind person, a compassionate person, someone that keeps the commandments of God? How can I maximize his potential? Rabbi Shimon, they went back to the cave. Rabbi Shimon came out and he wasn't burning things up, but his son Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Eliezer, he was burning things up. And the Rashbi told him to go back to the cave. He needs to become like Moshe Rabbeinu, like Aaron HaKohen. Oyev Shalom, V'roidev Shalom. Moshe Rabbeinu understanding the pnimius of each yid. This is the darach of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. To stop looking down upon people who are not a big Talmud Chacham like you. To stop looking down at people that are doing jobs that you consider to be, an embarrassing job to do. Garbage collectors. I don't know, for some reason there's this thing that they look down upon people that what's it called again? That I don't even remember what it's called because it's such nonsense. But people that a plumber, right? Look down at a plumber like, well, what's the problem? Fixes, he's doing a big. It's not so he's helping people. Why are you looking down upon him? He's picking up people's garbage. Why are you looking down upon him? You understand? It makes money. It brings in livelihood. Why are you looking down upon him? Why are you ruining his life? Ruining his kids, that it's hard for them to get married? Why are you doing that? After he helped you. After he helped hundreds of people. Think of a garbage man collector. How many hundreds of people he helps weekly? A plumber. How many? If you don't have a plumber, you can have the fanciest house. You got to leave. Everything gets stuffed. It stinks. It's how he helps people. And just because it's dirty, that what he's doing and is helping, instead of thanking him profusely, wow, you're taking the garbage. I would never do that because it's so dirty. I can't. But you do it and you help me. You fix my toilet. You help me. Thank you. Instead, we embarrass them. We tell our kids, don't hang out with them. Don't marry them. Such a nasty thing to do. And this is, oh, he's a plumber. And these are people that went to BMG, Brisk, Mir, a bunch of children, worse than children. Worse than children. Not worse than children. Children are amazing. You understand? But a child has the certain aspect that it's harder for them to see someone else. These people, it's the opposite. They see someone else to degrade him, to degrade her. No, they see other people. Especially when it comes to degrading them. Oh, but it's dirty, and therefore there's something wrong with them. Such terrible people. And this could be someone that's a Rebbe, a Shiva, Chacham, Rebbetzin, and this is what they project. Such falsehoods, such a nasty ideology. And they think they're so holy. They go around the whole day smiling, feeling like they're on top of the world. That when they come to heaven, the doors are going to open up and all the righteous people are going to come running towards them to welcome them in. You know who the righteous people are going to come running to welcome in? The plumber. The person picking up the garbage. The balanced people. Because balanced people, they're machshav, those great tzaddikim. They understand that their light years ahead of me. And their whole life, they admire them. And they work tirelessly and effortlessly on themselves to become better people, to keep Hashem's mitzvahs better. If there's anybody that all the righteous people in heaven are going to come running to welcome them into heaven, it's the balanced people. That's who they're going to come running. All of these arrogant, egoistic, self-righteous people, they'll be lucky if they get in because of all the damage that they caused to Judaism, to the world. We have to know that. And we have to stop spending time being machshav those people. We don't have time to sit and change them. How are you going to change someone who thinks he's in control of Klal Yisrael? How are you going to change him? You got to find the tzaddik emes, the true tzaddik, someone who understands what I'm not a tzaddik, but I at least understand what really a tzaddik is. We have to start coming together. We have to stop with this negativity of boosting ourselves by putting people down, by boosting people down, by pushing them down. We have to start saying, wow, they're doing this, that's amazing. That's so special. We have to throw them off out of our lives. These people are machrivei karta. They destroy the city. They destroy the country. They destroy the town. So they destroy the country. They destroy the world. They destroy the next world because they cause so much sin. Because they're teaching people anti-balance. And because of that, so many people leave God. So many people do zera levatala. So many people, because of all the hardships that they had to endure because of this ideology, they'll never love God. They might do it because they're afraid of hell, but they'll never love God. There's just so much pain. It would take a genius to get them out of that. We're talking about a true genius, what we're discussing. A real righteous person, a real tzaddik emes. This is the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. And unfortunately, the Hasidim are completely losing this. They're becoming completely affected by the Litvisha ideology of today. I'm not talking about Litvisha ideology of the past, I'm talking about what's today, what's coming out of Litvish today. This full-time learning, completely throwing off the responsibility of livelihood. You as the husband, completely throwing off that responsibility, saying she has to do it while she's carrying a kid. Saying she has to do it while she's healthy, while she's not carrying it. Who cares? That's mainly your responsibility. It's true today, you need both probably to make it. She's bringing in some, you're bringing in the bulk. Making it so hard for people to get married. After going through all this paperwork and all these numbers, instead of just saying, Yidden are great, the girls are amazing, the boys are amazing, let them meet. Let them see if they connect. Teach them how to look for substance, not just, it's brisk. How could I say no? There's all these alarms coming off. He has this ego problem. All these alarms. But it's brisk. How could I say no? Sending our children there to be destroyed. We have to start respecting Hashem's ideas of balance. How many divorces? Because there's so much focus on the things that are not really so important. Many of them irrelevant. Because they're focused on so much. You have only 100. When it comes to getting married, you have 100%. You have an X amount of capacity of finding a good spouse. There's X amount of capacity. If you you don't have endless. So if you focus so much on things that are unimportant, then that only leaves a little bit for the things that are important. And since most people, they don't use all that 100% capacity that they have, it's too much for them. So those things could even be forgotten. And even if you have a bit of them, since there's such a big focus on things that aren't important, and that seems so important, so if you have that, and that's 75%, and 10%, which is things that are actually important, are telling you no, you're going to listen to the 75, because the system says that's what's important. That's what gives you honor. You understand? That's what it means to really be a Jew, when it doesn't. It's the furthest thing. Judaism is all about balanced. That's why when you learn the Sfarim, you learn Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Torah, whatever it is, the Gemara. It talks about being healthy. It gives you advice according to what they knew in their times of how to live, how to be healthy, how not to get sick, how to cure yourself. It's all about balance. This is the lesson we must take. We must learn. We have to work tirelessly that we should be able to understand real truth, to find the real tzaddik emes. We cannot waste our time. Yes, if you're in a position and you could help these tzaddikim, that have these wrong ideologies, and amazing. That's an amazing thing to do, but most people aren't cut out for that. If you have that ability, absolutely make those tzaddikim into real tzaddikim. Absolutely. And but me as an individual, my life is short. I could get divorced because of me following them. My kids could go off the derech. I can't. I'm not the rabbi. They're the rabbi. You understand? I can't be their rabbi. That's why I said that they're my rabbi. They're my Rebbitzin. They're my Rebbe. They're my Chacham. They're my Rosh Hashiva. That's why I said it. But they're really not. They're not there yet. They got to go back to the cave. So me, who is looking for someone to lead me, you understand? I should now be leading them. Right? I can't do that. You have to have special skills to do that. You have to be someone maybe that's in their league, that's actually a true tzaddik to do that. It's not going to work, me telling them. I just got to leave in a respectable way. And you have to leave like wildfire in a respectable way, and just focus on, and go to the tzaddik emes. To the very least, to a group that understand what a real tzaddik emes is. You understand, and pick the best of the group to lead until they could create a real tzaddik emes. You understand? Life is short. Life is long, right? Depends where you're holding, right? If you're in the beginning of life, it looks like life is very long. If you're towards the middle, you're like, oh my goodness, right? Life's not as long as I thought. And when you start getting towards the end, you're like, oh my goodness, life is short, right? We don't have time. We just got to go to someone who has the real goods. We don't have time to waste. There's serious things at stake. Not getting married, getting divorced, God forbid. God forbid a child leaving Judaism. God forbid not knowing how to make a parnasa, how to make a livelihood. We just don't have the time to be involved in falsehood. We just don't have the time. And, falsehood is like Never Never Land, right? Never, whatever that's called. It makes you forget your parents, you understand? Being in that falsehood, it's not just that you're doing the falsehood, but it makes you forget the truth. And that's the real danger. If someone thinks something wrong, you can educate them to the truth. But if someone is doing something which makes them forget truth, that truth is hard to stay in them, that's something really dangerous. And that's what this false ideology causes. It's their own ideas, nothing to do with Judaism. Hashem says, be a kind, good person, be a good husband, be a good wife, be a good parent, be a good leader. Keep my commandments. That's what God says. The commandments vary in all areas of life, from services that you do in the Holy of Holies, in the Kodesh Kodashim, all the way to ribbis, to work, to every area in life, to character, everything. Torah is all about balance. In fact, it screams balance. The biggest lesson in the Torah from all its lessons is that you have to figure out who you are. And if you're a leader, you have to be able to figure out who that person is. Not compare him to the Rajbi. To figure out who he is and how to maximize his potential to be a kind, loving person and keep God's commandments. That's what the Torah is. That's what the Torah is. Balance. And of course, we mentioned there's so many, aspects to balance. As we mentioned earlier. Let us take this lesson. Let us take this truth. Let us appreciate ourselves, someone else. Let us appreciate the greatest teaching in the Torah. But it's a teaching that you could miss because it's like the root, it's the foundation of everything, which is balance. And with us following Hashem in truth, saying today, truth, real truth, starting a search for a real tzaddik. Someone who understood, who is very close to God and understands balance, that we have to look at the individual, not compare him to some Kabbalist from like 1,000 years ago. Not even to compare him to me, because he's his own person. I look at him, and we talk together, we figure, and we work together to understand who you are and how we could maximize your potential, your greatness, your gift to the world. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.